everyone, and welcome to the 11th of our 12 talk series of the 2021 Ottawa Sailing Community Winter Speaker Series, hosted by the Nepean Sailing Club. My name is Stephen Kidd, and I'll be your MC tonight. Thank you for joining us. Tonight's presentation, Mike, if you'd turn your camera on, please. NSC is about creating together what people need for the best experience in sailing, boating, and socializing with others. Mike Thompson, our fleet captain, will talk about how to boat, explore, and belong at NSC, and give special attention to what new members can expect and how those of us who are more seasoned can support them. Mike and his family joined NSC some 15 years ago. He has sailed single-handed dinghies, sport boats, and cruisers, including as an instructor with Advantage Boating. He currently races Zamboni, a Viper 640. Mike has served on the fleet committee for several years and has co-chaired the Nepean One Design Regatta 3 times and is now NSC fleet captain. Mike is a consultant in the semiconductor industry. Now, just before Mike begins, we're going to put up one poll question. If you would, Tony, please. How long have you been a member of NSC, if you are one? So, Mike, thank you very much for presenting tonight. Just before I give you the mic, remember, audience, please use the Q&A question and answer box to ask questions and make comments, and not the chat box. If you use the Q&A box for your questions, then everybody can see everybody's questions and also upvote them. And you can see what other people have already asked. So again, thanks, Mike. Over to you.
All right. It takes 2 seconds to find the mute button every time. It's the joke of these days, is it not? Hi, everybody. My name's Mike Thompson. Real pleasure to be here. Thanks for the great introduction, Stephen. I'm going to jump right into my slides. And that means I'm going to have to demonstrate that I know how to share my screen. We're going to find that out right now. So hopefully everybody is looking at a screen that has a beautiful background on it. It's the Nepean Sailing Club Harbour, and the title is Boat Explore Beyond, Belong, which is the NSC's motto. And the topic today is getting the most from your membership at the Nepean Sailing Club. I'm really happy to see that the number of new members and the number of non-members is, if you add that all up, it's well over 60% in this talk today, and that's great because you're the people that I most want to speak with. In his introduction, Stephen said that I'm the fleet captain, and if you're new to the club, you might not know what the fleet captain is. Basically, if it has something to do with people enjoying being on the water in a sailboat, that falls under the auspices of the fleet committee. And my job, my goal is to make you, equip you so that you can have the most fun possible. So let's get into this. I want to just sort of set the table for us here. If you've lived in Ottawa for any length of time, if you've been a member of any of the sailing clubs in the Ottawa area for any length of time, or even just hung around the Ottawa River, you know that we are very lucky people. We've got this fabulous river right in the heart of our city. It's just terrific. And right where the dense part of the population on the west side is the widest part of the river, Lac de Chêne. So having access to this truly is a blessing. And all of these scenes here that you see in front of you now, these are all photographs taken from the Ottawa River, mostly from Lac de Chêne, a couple from right in front of the NSC, and at least one I see as a mooring out at Pinny's Point. So just being here is a great start if you're interested in sailing. It gets even better. Sailing on the Ottawa River is great sailing. If you're not from Ottawa and if you're not a sailor, sometimes you probably don't know this. We have 44 kilometers of navigable water available to us from the Deschênes Rapids at Britannia all the way up to the Chat Dam Falls near Fitzroy Harbour, just past the village of Couillon. 44 kilometers doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, get in a sailboat and try to sail it in a day, and then try to sail back in a day. It's a long way to go. It's great. Um, this body of water, there's lots of water to sail in. It's quite deep. It's 3 kilometers wide at the NSC. And for cruisers, there are at least 8 destinations that people like to go to for anchorages, or just places to visit. Some of them are great day anchorages. Some of them are really popular overnight anchorages, and a couple are some hidden gems that you might not know about. We also have the largest sailboat racing program in Canada. This bowls people over when I tell them this, but it's true. It's the largest in Canada. It's one of the largest in North America. I can say that with some confidence. And all of this is accessible to us. So, boy, sailing's got to be really accessible and really easy to do, right? Layered on top of this fabulous gem of a resource that we have, laid before our feet, the Ottawa River, there's a number of sailing clubs around, and the Nepean Sailing Club is an active part of that sailing community. So there's lots of activities that you can do. You can just go sailing, just get in your boat and go sailing. Go to a nice sunset anchorage and watch the sun go down. Maybe have a picnic lunch. There are lots of upriver destinations. Just go for a day cruise with your partner. You can join into some regularly scheduled events. Sail Past is a fun one where you get to go by and salute the Commodore, which is another way of saying you get to shoot him with a water cannon on your boat if you got one. You can go sailing with a neighbor. You can go upriver to moor at a particular harbor. There are long distance races. There's a Tuesday daytime keelboat meetup. You just go out with other keelboats and lash up and chat amongst yourselves on the river. If you want to get into more structured events, there's lots going on there as well, particularly around racing. There's something called the Crew Bank, which for new members is something I want to emphasize. We're going to talk about that a little bit longer, or a little bit more. Long distance races, this is where we actually get to take advantage of our fabulous river and race our boats way upriver and way back. There is a race run out of the Britannia Yacht Club, which Nepean Sailing Club members are free to join, of course, called the 100-mile race. And it's literally 100 nautical miles. It takes more than a day. There's the weeknight racing program, very popular, and several regattas. So it's all good, right? Everything is great. So yet I'm constantly encountering, and I do this at the NSC, and I used to be a member of the Canada Sailing Club. It's the same situation there. New members sometimes struggle, right? And there's a bunch of reasons for this. Sailing is a technical skill. I equate it to learning how to drive a car. First time you got in a car, think back to when you were 15 or 16 and you tried to learn how to drive a car. It takes a while. You're nervous. It's a mechanical skill to learn. It doesn't come naturally to you. You have to practice it. So that's a barrier for people getting the most out of their membership. Secondly, there's boats. Well, car maintenance is a problem, but usually there's somebody that goes off and does car maintenance for you. Boats are a little bit different, and they can be a lot of work. They can either be an expense if you pay somebody to repair it yourself, or a lot of work yourself, and work that you may or may not be comfortable doing yourself. So that's another barrier, another reason why new members struggle. And last but not least is there's lots going on. There's lots of people going on. You're chatting to people, but you really don't know how to break the ice. You don't know how to get involved. So that's really what I want to talk about today, is how to break that jam. It can be tough to break in. You wouldn't know it by talking to me, but I'm a bit of an introvert. My role as fleet captain is to engage with people, and I can do that in the role. But left to my own devices, I am a bit of an introvert, and there are lots of people around. It's just hard. It can be hard to get in. Sometimes for a wallflower like me, it can be really hard to get in. One thing we like to talk about at the Nepean Sailing Club, we're quite proud of this little statistic, is half of our members have joined within the last 5 years. That says good things about, we're attracting new members, we're growing as a club. These are positive things. But there is a flip side to it. That means that half of our members have been here for more than 5 years. So that means that there is probably not probably, there is, I can tell you this from experience, there is a well-worn, established network of long-term relationships, and sometimes it's hard to break into those. Another thing that is a net positive is that the club has a lot of programs in place for sailors to participate in. I sort of hinted at some of that a couple of slides ago. But that can be a bit overwhelming for newcomers. It's difficult to find out what things are happening. It's difficult to understand which of these is the right one for you. We also like to brag about our facilities. The NSC facilities are truly first rate. I absolutely, and I can say this with some confidence because I've had the opportunity to sail at other clubs in Canada, all through North America, and even some clubs outside of North America. And I can tell you, there's a lot of clubs that can't hold a candle to the resources that the NSC has, and the clubs that can, we stack up very nicely, and in most cases we have better resources than other clubs around. It really is, it's amazing to be a member of a club that has such fabulous facilities for the members to access. But once again, for a new member, that can be intimidating. Some of these facilities are complicated to operate. There may be obscure rules that you may not know about. Some members know about the rules and aren't shy about telling you you are breaking one of the rules. So, just because these facilities exist doesn't necessarily mean that you are comfortable accessing them. Lastly, the harbor's full of boats. One of the things I like the most about the Nepean Sailing Club is we've got a very big harbor, something like 450 boats in that harbor, and it's full. And it just, if you're ever there on a windy day and all the halyards are banging against the mast, it ding, 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 it's fabulous. It's really magical. It's hard to know which of those boats is the best for you. What kind of boat is the best for you? So, the Nepean Sailing Club has all these things to offer, but yet those same things can make it difficult for a new member to break in. So what we're going to try to do in this presentation is help you break through that, right? The people I want to talk to the most are the newest half of our membership. People who are not yet members, people who have been, this is their first year being a member, people who have been a member for less than 5 years. I want to make sure you're a member 5 years from now, and that whole time, you've just had the time of your life being a member at the NSC. There's lots that I could talk about in this presentation, and trust me, I am the kind of guy that can just keep talking. So we're gonna try to keep it down to 45 to 60 minutes here. So I'm going to focus on a subset of this topic. We're going to talk about programs and people. Along the way, we'll talk about other things like how to develop the technical skills that you need to sail and maintain a boat, how to get involved, and at the end there'll be a little idea about boat maintenance. Little plug for my colleague Dave Naismith, the Rear Commodore and Harbor Master. Next week he'll be giving a presentation that will talk a little bit about not a little bit, quite a lot about the facilities, the yard, the equipment for getting from the yard into the harbor. So that's a good presentation for new members to attend for sure. I want to take just a moment to reach out specifically to women who are new members of the club. It's just a fact. Women and women's voices are underrepresented in sailing in general at the NSC. There are 10 of us on the board, 2 of us are women. We can do better. So help me change that. Get involved, please. Stephen mentioned the annual Women in the Wind conference. It's a virtual conference this year for obvious reasons. It's April 24th. I would encourage you to attend. This is a great conference, lots of different topics, and a real welcoming community. There are details on the Telltale on the website, and I'll be talking about Telltale on the website just a little bit later on. Also, there is Monday Night Racing. That's a women's racing night. This is the largest racing program specifically for women in Canada. Monday evenings from late May until the end of September. I was at a club recently outside of the Ottawa area. I won't mention it. And I was speaking to the Commodore, and I mentioned our racing program for women, and he was quite proud of himself, and he was quite proud of his club. He said, "Oh yes, we have a women's racing program. 3 nights out of the summer, we have races for women. We do that in less than a month." So when I say the NSC and the Ottawa sailing community have access to some of the best resources in Canada, I'm not kidding. We really do. Okay, so let's just switch gears a little bit here. I've got 3 main topics. This is the first one, getting involved, right? Sometimes you just got to call somebody because you don't know what you don't know. So who's that going to be? Well, call me. I'm the fleet captain, and I'm serious about this. It's literally in my job description to help you get the most out of your sailing experience at the Nepean Sailing Club. So give me a call. Probably the best thing to do is to email me at fleet@nsc.ca. That's a real short, snappy email address. In the unlikely event that you forget such a short, snappy email address, go to the website. Under contact, you can find the members of the board, and my smiling face is there, and you can get access to the email address. Just want to warn you, the NSC is a volunteer-driven organization, and there is no they. So when members come to me with a really great idea, they should do blah, 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 blah. What that generally means is that we start doing it, right? I'll get involved. I have access to a committee of people that are really enthusiastic, and I know several other people at the club, and we can get people behind a good idea. But if you've got a great idea, I hope you can participate to make it a reality. Not to be a weasel here, but if you've got a question about fees, mooring, and like the business side of the NSC, if you come to me, I will do my utmost to help you. But really, I'm daft when it comes to that stuff. Best to call the office, and the contact information is available at the website, nsc.ca. Once again, if you call me, I will help you. But what I'll probably do is very quickly get you in contact with somebody who can actually help you. If it's about sailing, if it's about being on the water, I'm the person you want to talk to. Okay, communication to the members. We try very hard to communicate to the members a lot, and this communication is really your conduit to the programs that are ongoing at the club. So if you want to know what's going on at the club, first thing you want to do is make sure you're getting the telltale. And I've got it on the screen right here in front of us. This is the header of a telltale email from March 12th. It looks just like that. It's got the great banner picture on the top of it, and then it's got a highlights for the week, and then the details go below that. You should, at this time of year, you should be getting one of these once a week. If you're not, please call the office, because you do want to get this. This is the single best source of information about club events, resources, and what's going on at the club. I'm supposed to know what's going on any given day, but I read this every Friday when it comes in because I want to make sure I'm up to date. There's so much going on. It's hard to get your head around it. So if you're not getting this, please contact the club. Another great source of information is our website. We've got a fabulous website, and it looks like it's a designed a few years ago. There's a reason for that. It was designed a few years ago. It's chock full of great content. Anything you want to know about what's going on at the Nepean Sailing Club, how to get involved, what the procedures are, who's involved, what day do I show up, it's all on the website. I swear to God, it's all on the website. And good luck to you finding that. It's a bit of a labyrinth. I'm not criticizing the people behind this. The people that put together this website many years ago did a great job. It's well organized, but more and more content's been layered in over the years, and it's becoming really a challenge to find anything. And the board has recognized this. There's a subcommittee of the board that is looking at revamping the website. I'm not holding my breath for that happening anytime in the next couple of months. This is a big job, and it's not easy to develop a really great website. For us today, there's 3 links that I want you to remember. So what you do is you go to nsc.ca on your favorite browser, this or something very much like this is what pops up. There's 3 links that you're going to spend most of your time clicking: the racing link, the cruising link, and the calendar, right? Racing is where you find out about racing. Cruising is where you find out about cruising, and the calendar is when you find out, what's going on, what date is it going on. I look at the calendar 2 or 3 times a week. Another place to go is Facebook, and I get a lot of eye rolls when I say, you should get on Facebook if you want to know what's going on in sailing in Ottawa. I'm not going to do an advertisement for Facebook, other than to say Facebook is a very popular way for sailors to communicate in the Ottawa area. There are 2 Facebook groups that are particularly of interest to us today. The first is the Ottawa Sailing Community group. This is a public group. It was started by a fellow whose name I've forgotten, NSC member. This is an old group, many years old. And there's currently 1,200 members. So that's a lot of people. This is not just an NSC specific group. This is basically anybody in Ottawa. So you'll get people that aren't members of sailing clubs at all talking on this. You'll get people from all the sailing clubs in the Ottawa area. Great resource to go find out what's going on. Then there's the Nepean Sailing Club community Facebook page. This is a closed group, so you need to request to be added, and the moderator wants to know that you're an NSC member before admitting you. Here's a little secret. All you have to do is say, I'm an NSC member. So even if you're hoping to be an NSC member next year, go there, sign up. The content here is mostly NSC specific, not exclusively, but mostly NSC specific. 99% of what's going on any given day, you can find out just by looking at these, and there are some pretty good jokes, nothing off color. This was a communication initiative that was started by a member this year. Like I say, we're a volunteer-driven organization, so things happen because volunteers get excited. Somebody thought it was a good idea to create a Facebook group for the Ottawa sailing community, so they did, and they got behind it, and now it's taken off. This year, another member of the NSC who was looking for a more direct way of communicating with members that wasn't Facebook. This person and his circle are not Facebook fans. So this is kind of an email style communication mode. You basically send an email to the group and it gets distributed, and the website will basically keep track of all the conversations. So it's called groups.io. The specific group is NSC Channel 16, and I'll get you to Google Channel 16 to see why it's called Channel 16. This is a freewheeling discussion board. It's intended for things like sail plans and talking about navigation hazards. There's usually a deadhead in the river every spring that somebody should know about. What the weather's like, lost and found, sharing tools, sharing expertise, sharing stories, but really it can be anything. So I'd recommend you go to that, sign up. The moderator will let you in the conversation, and then you can get these digests every day, every week, or every month. Last but not least, and this isn't a website to go to, this is a program that was started by my predecessor, Dominic Goodwill, a couple of years ago. And we couldn't do it last year for kind of obvious reasons, and hopefully we'll be able to do it this year. It was something called SWAN, Sail with a Neighbor. It's like living in an apartment sometimes in the harbor. There's all these boats, like less than 5 feet from your boat, but maybe you don't even talk to the owners of those boats. Well, a really great way to get to know people is to invite them on your boat and take them for a sail. Trust me, if they're sailors, they would always love to get on a different boat. They'll reciprocate, and the next thing you know, everybody's sailing with everybody else, and you get to know people. This was a pretty popular program when it was run in 2019. COVID permitting, we'll give it a run this year as well. Okay, so I want to address now the skill aspect, right? As Stephen said in the introduction, I'm an instructor with Advantage Boating here in Ottawa. I teach the basic cruising course. That's the course that's offered to people that have, there's no prerequisites to take this course, so you can sign up and get on a boat without ever having been on a boat before. And so I'm familiar with the transition that people have to go through in order to go from not being a sailor to being a sailor. It's not hard, but it can be daunting. So let's talk about some ways to do that. The number one way to learn how to sail is to get time on the water. So find a way to get on the water. If you got a boat, you use it. If you have a friend with a boat, crew with them. Trust me, if you have a boat, I've had several boats. I own 2 now. You're always looking for crew. So if you know somebody with a boat, call them up, honest to goodness, right? There's just no substitute for time on the water, right? It's a physical activity. Sailing is a physical interaction with your environment. I have lots of books on sailing, and I can tell you, there's only so much book learning you can do. You got to get out there and get your hand on a line, get your hand on a tiller, get bend a sail on, and get going. You're acquiring new skills. This takes time. So acknowledge that. Be gentle with yourself, right? Be mindful of the little gains and the little victories. Many, many years ago, before my knee blew out, and I blew it out sailing, go figure, I used to be a pretty active runner, and I would run with the running group. They had a great program. What they would do is they would make sure that everybody was put into a group where they would be successful. Because at the running room, they recognize that making sure that people have to push themselves a little bit, but have every reason to expect success is a motivating factor. And so they will take the next step, and then they will take the next step. And it's a little bit like that in sailing. So put yourself in a position where you are going to learn something, maybe push yourself a little bit, get out of your comfort zone, but don't push too much, and reward yourself for learning a little, a new skill. And it can be something simple like how to bend on a sheet. It can be something complicated like how to jibe in high winds. There's all kinds of things to learn. When you acquire a new skill, be proud of yourself. Recognize that it's going to take time. There will be inevitable setbacks. You're going to broach the boat. You're going to have trouble. The lines are going to get all hacked up on you, and you're going to have trouble with them. Don't let it throw you. Happens to every one of us. Be mindful of first-time experiences. This is particularly true if you're taking out somebody who's not sailed either at all before or just only a little bit. If it's the first time in the boat and the wind picks up to 30 knots and your boat heels right over on its ear and water's coming in over the beam, that's probably not a really good first experience for a new sailor. So you want to be mindful that the first experience people have is a positive experience. And make it a social event. This is especially important for kids. I raised 2 kids sailing, and one of them really loves sailing and still sails actively, and the other one doesn't. And that's because one of them got into a social group that was of peers that were active in sailing, and the other just by circumstance got into a group that was doing another activity, and she just migrated away from sailing. So my younger daughter is still an avid sailor. You'll see her on the boat with me to this day. My older daughter will sail with me as a favor. This is something a conversation that I get into a lot as an instructor. What kind of a sailor are you? You really want to be honest with yourself on this. Like, look yourself in the mirror and be honest. Be brutally honest, right? Takes all kinds of sailors to make a successful club, and there's no wrong answer to this, right? You can be a wannabe sailor, somebody who doesn't sail but wants to. You can be a hardcore racer. You can be anything, right? No wrong answer, and you can be more than one type, right? I'm a bit of a hardcore racer. but I enjoy cruising. It's a bit of a problem because my boat is a racing boat. And it can change over time. If you sail long enough, it will change over time, right? Having a good idea of the answer to this question is going to be key for you getting the most out of your membership. If you're a cruiser and the only time you ever get on the water is to go racing, it's just not going to be the experience for you. You're not going to be here in 5 years because you don't want to race. You want to cruise. So, what kind of sailor are you? Use that information to take your next steps. Let's talk about individual types of sailors one by one here. Wannabe sailors. We all want to be sailors, don't we? I want to be a sailor. I've been sailing for a long time and I'm still not very good at it. I learned to sail here on the Ottawa River at a little place called the Canada Sailing Club. And before anybody asks, yes, there is a Canada Sailing Club. I'm not kidding. I was in my mid-30s, never stepped on a sailboat before. And I don't think I've been off a sailboat since. There's lots of ways to learn how to sail in this area. If you just Google with your favorite web browser, Sailing School Ottawa, you'll get half a dozen hits. One thing that I will say is make sure that whoever's offering the training is Sail Canada approved or is offering Sail Canada approved courses. So the instructors will be trained by Sail Canada to teach sailing. And you will get a Sail Canada approved certification for your efforts. This is really important. There are a couple of fly-by-nighters in Ottawa, but most of the organizations in the Ottawa area that offer sailing are really, really reputable, really good, and Sail Canada approved. For first-time sailors, you're looking at two distinct classes of lessons that are available. There's can sail for dinghies. Dinghies are small boats where typically the crew's weight is used as ballast. So when you tack or jibe, the crew's got to move around to balance the boat out. And then there's something called basic cruising, and this is for keel boats. So once again, there's no right or wrong answer. Which one do you want to do? A common mistake that non-sailors make is they look at dinghies and they see dinghies are small and they think, oh, dinghies are for kids. Not true. I still sail dinghies. It's getting harder and harder as I get older and older, but I sure love sailing dinghies. It's a great deal of fun. But I also love cruising in keel boats. Okay, so maybe you know how to sail, but you don't have a boat. Okay, this is a common thing, and there's a place for you at the Nepean Sailing Club for sure. The thing you want to check out is something called the Crew Bank. And just to put a plug in for other sailing clubs around the area, they all have this concept implemented in slightly different ways. They all have something called a crew bank. And the purpose of the crew bank is to basically have a bank, a list of sailors that are looking to crew on boats, either for racing or for cruising, right? If you go to the Nepean Sailing Club, click on racing, this page will pop up. I'm pointing at my screen like you can see what I'm pointing at. I apologize. The racing page will pop up, and down at the lower right-hand side, there'll be a link called Crew Bank. Click that. There's a little registration to fill out, and then you're in the Crew Bank. People that are going cruising, people that are going racing will look in the Crew Bank, and they're looking for people. Another thing you can do is hang out at the blue tent on race night, right? So just below the deck of the Nepean Sailing Club clubhouse, as you're going towards the gate to the harbor, there's a big blue tent with a set of picnic tables underneath there. If you park your butt on one of those picnic tables, looking longingly at the sailors as they walk by, you will get picked up. That is, it sounds dirty, but it's not. But that's a great pickup spot for sailors. And I don't mean that in a dating way. I mean that in a get a crew way. People are always looking for crew, even at the last minute. And people get a lot of crew at the tent. Reach out to folks behind the social sailing scene. So underneath the racing link, there is a social sailing link. Click on that and find out who's who in the zoo. Reach out to them. Trust me, if you're a cruiser, you are almost always in a situation where you could use an extra pair of hands in your boat. Maybe you want to go up to Penny's Point for the day. for a picnic, and geez, the wind is going to come up. Wouldn't it be great if we could get an extra pair of hands in the boat? Crew bank is for that. So reach out to these people, let them know you're interested. Okay, maybe you have a boat, but you need other things. Well, you need a crew to sail with. Maybe you and your partner have different work hours. So when you're free to go sailing, they have to work, or vice versa. So if you have a boat, you're always in need of crew. Look up people in the crew bank. That's, this thing is intended to work both ways, right? Maybe you need practice with docking or anchoring or flying a kite or any of those technical things that come with sailing. This is a common occurrence. Last year, I was at the club, and there was this couple who I've not yet met, but I'm looking forward to reaching out to them. They bought a brand new boat, new to them anyway, and when I came to the club, I was looking at Harbour and I saw them landing the boat. And I thought to myself, they're not that experienced. And they weren't. But what did they do? They landed the boat at the dock, and then they launched the boat. And they motored out to the head of the harbor, turned around, and they came back and they landed it again. And they kept doing it. And they were doing that all morning long. Time on the water. If you are nervous about docking, practice docking. One thing, if you're nervous about docking or anchoring or something, check the calendar. There may be a seminar for this already planned. It's very, very common for these things, and they pop up in an impromptu way. There's almost always a docking seminar that's offered. There's almost always an anchoring seminar. These are put together by individual members that are just willing to help new members out. So if you're interested in something like that and you don't see it on the calendar, reach out to me and we can pull something together. Trust me, if you own a boat and you've been sailing for a long time, the thing you love most in the world is sharing what you know about boats and talking to boats with other people who have just learned or trying to learn how to sail. So if you want to develop a new skill, reach out. We'll make sure you can develop that new skill, right? Like I say, if all else fails, call the fleet captain. Okay, I have a boat and I want to race. Well, you're my kind of people. One of the things that we see a lot is people want to race, but they're very nervous about racing. Racing, there's an awful lot of things going on at the start line. There's an awful lot of things going on at the gate. Maybe you have raced before, but not recently. Maybe you've never raced before, but it sure looks exciting. Two things you can do there. First is come race with us. You can also crew for somebody who races, get on the crew bank, get some experience that. But if you've got a boat and you want to race it, please do come out, right? Maybe you're not going to win it your first time out. That's fine. On Thursday night, there is a race called Jam, Jib and Main Only. And it's for people that are not real hardcore adrenaline junkies. They just want to get out there and go around the marks. And there's one fella, he's from BY. He starts a minute late every race, deliberately. And he finishes dead last every race, deliberately. Why? He's just out for a day on the water. So come on out, right? Don't be embarrassed if you come last. If that's something to be embarrassed about, then I should have a bag on my head right now, because I've been last a lot, right? It doesn't matter. You're going to improve. Without you coming out, learning how to sail, becoming part of the community, we have no future. So you are most welcome. Don't be shy. Come on out. You'd be surprised about this one. I love sailboat races, but I don't like to race. It sounds crazy, but it's not really that crazy. Sailboat racing is kind of thrilling to watch. Once you know what's going on with a sailboat race, it's fun to watch. But not everybody likes the terror at 6 knots. A start line, it can look pretty daunting, and not everybody's interested in that. But they still want to be involved. Well, get involved as race committee. The race committee are the people that run the flags, run the marks, basically make things happen. Sail Canada offers multiple courses for race officers and judges, and the NSC, that is the fleet captain, will reimburse you for your fees. The fees are pretty modest, but just to get people involved, the NSC will reimburse your fees for that. So if you want to do that, let me know. Okay, that's down to our last section here, getting into a boat, right? So we've talked about, getting into the club, getting into the activities, finding out what's going on. Now we're going to talk about getting into a boat, right? This question's already come up. Again, what kind of sailor are you, right? If you're going to spend dollars on a boat, and you don't have to spend a lot of dollars on a boat, but these are discretionary dollars. It can go anywhere. So it's important to look in the mirror and understand what you want, right? And again, there's no wrong answer, right? A laser is a great boat for those who like lasers. Laser is a single person dinghy. You've probably seen it in the Olympics. Gobs of fun, just great fun boat. But maybe you're a cruiser, so a laser is not a good boat for you. So it doesn't matter what the answer is, but make sure you ask yourself the question. Ask your partner what they think, right? Try to come to some sort of alignment, right? And there can be more than one type, and it can change over time. That's fine. Here's a good tip. Find out what other people at the club are sailing, right? There's probably a good reason for it. There are a number of very popular boats here at the Nepean Sailing Club or in the Ottawa area in general, and there's some really good reasons. You see a lot of sharks, you see a lot of Tanzers, you see a lot of CNCs, you see a lot of J boats. There's got to be a reason for that. Reach out to the people that own those boats, ask them, find out why, right? And I tell this to my students when I'm instructing for Advantage all the time. Watch out for 2-foot-itis, because if you see a boat that's 26 feet long and you say to yourself, gee, that's a nice boat, then you see a 28-foot boat, and 2 feet adds an awful lot of capability to a boat. Well, you think, wow, that's a nice boat. Next thing you're on to 30 feet, 32. It doesn't end. There is no upper limit to the length of a boat you can buy. 2-foot-itis will ruin you financially. So just be careful about that. Get the boat that's the right size for you. Okay, last but not least, I want to talk about syndicates. Syndicate is a word that I use meaning, unique ownership or arrangements, right? I want you to consider joint ownership. A lot of people shy away from this, and they shouldn't. I've owned a lot of sailboats over the last few years. Only one of them, Zamboni, is a boat that I own outright. Every other boat, including I have another boat, is a boat that I've shared, that I currently share with somebody or have shared with other people. Sometimes more than 1 or 2 people. It significantly reduces your costs. Most boats spend a lot of time in the harbor. You got a job, you got a family, you got responsibilities. You can't be sailing 24/7. Too bad, but you probably can't. So that boat's going to sit there while you're at work. Maybe you got a retired buddy that can take it out in the afternoon and you can take it out in the evening. Joint ownership can make a lot of sense. And it significantly reduces the maintenance burden. And this is the little hint I was going to give you about dealing with boat maintenance. Many hands make light work. Many wallets make for cheaper repairs. You can get into a timeshare. The only timeshare that I'm aware of in the Ottawa area is offered by Advantage Boating. So Advantage Boating has boats at the Nepean Sailing Club. You buy a timeshare and you get access to these boats. It's sort of like boat ownership on training wheels. My wife and I had a timeshare in a boat many years ago. It was a great way to get into it. The NSC has a dinghy rental program. There's more information on the website, so that's another great way to get into a boat. But think about this: you want to be flexible, right? Don't think that you need to spend $100,000 to get a boat that you and you alone own and that you have all the responsibility for. You can spend an awful lot less on a boat, and you can share the cost amongst multiple people. Okay, and with that, I will say thank you to all of you for listening. I hope I haven't bored you too much, maybe just a little. And I will turn it over to Stephen. I think I have to stop my share.
Yes. Thanks
Okay.
very much, Mike. That was a great overview. Really, really appreciated it. Um, Boy, I myself have am only in my fourth year at the club, and I could identify with so much of what you were saying because there is so much to learn. And I actually started as part of a syndicate. I co-owned a boat, and it was so helpful because there was much to learn. And and the other thing is, even though there's lots to learn, people are so helpful. Um, Now you have to choose between the 8 to 10 opinions you get, but people are really, really helpful. All right, now it's time for some Q and A's. Um, Another organization I belong to calls it Q and EH, Q's and A's, and we've got a couple up here. And as we ask these questions, for anybody else, keep thinking of things that Mike shared and any other questions that you might have or even comments. Feel free to put them in the Q&A box. So Mike, the first question from Chuck is whether the number of NSC members have increased over the years.
I better be careful answering this question because I actually don't know the actual numbers as hard and cold facts. I can't tell you just from my recollection and seeing stats put up, you know, at the AGM over the years that we went through a period of rapid growth that leveled off, and then starting a few years ago, that started to slowly roll off and membership was actually shrinking, and that was cause for concern, mostly attributed to the demographic bubble. Right, there's the baby boomers, and as the baby boomers age out, they that people in that demographic, for whatever reason, health, um, they decide not to come back to the club, and so that was a trend for a number of years. I was really worried, and a lot of people were worried that this was going to be a big problem for the Nepean Sailing Club. And I can tell you, it was a problem for all the clubs on Lac du Chien, not just Nepean. The last few years, though, I've seen a bit of a turnaround, and I'm not 100% certain what is the reason behind that. I know that our membership director, Ross Ernst, spends an awful lot of time scrunching these numbers, trying to understand that. There is the baby boom echo is now coming into adulthood, and so maybe that's driving it. I can tell you that we saw a big spike last year due to COVID. People couldn't go vacationing, so a lot of people bought a boat. And just buy and buy. If you have a boat for sale, this is a good year because everybody's looking to buy a boat. But that's true for bikes and golf courts and you name it, right? So I think right now we are within about 2 or 3% of our peak numbers from years ago. So we have a very healthy membership.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, on the topic of races, there are two questions here. How many races are there each year at the club?
So a lot
Or
is the honest to goodness answer. I can rattle this off. So from early May until a week after Thanksgiving, there is racing at the Nepean Sailing Club, and the amount of racing changes. Of course, in the spring, there's a modest amount of racing. Starting in June and going through to the end of September, there's a lot of racing. So there's Monday night women's racing, Tuesday night races for one design boats. There's Wednesday night is dinghies and cats and high performance race boats. Thursdays is the jam that I was talking about, jib and main only, and something called perf, which is handicap. So there's two circles out there. Friday's usually a day of rest because a lot of people will campaign their boats out of town. So we deliberately don't run anything on Friday because that's when people would pack up their boat to get on a trailer to hit the road. But we also have weekend events. We have long distance races. Some of these don't have a particular date. The race runs the entire season, and you basically submit a GPS track for the long distance races. There are a number of, I think there's about half a dozen between ourselves and Britannia weekend regattas through the season. So if you want to race your boat, you can easily race your boat 4 nights a week, and then once on the weekend, maybe twice on the weekend. And that runs till the end of September, and then through October, we run what's called the Frostbite series, and only a few, I'd say probably 20 or 30 boats come out for that. You got to be a little bit nuts because it's cold out there.
And it's all inter-club racing, right? It's not just Nepean Sailing Club.
That's correct. So some of these races, like some of these specific event races, are run exclusively by the Nepean Sailing Club, but they're always open to everybody. But the bulk of the races are from what's called the Inter-Club Series. So this is the Britannia Yacht Club and the Nepean Sailing Club jointly organizing these, and we also get contributions from CVGR in the Elmer sector of Gatineau.
Right.
Yeah, it's a fabulous program. If you've ever been on the Ottawa River or on the shore of the Ottawa River on Lac du Chêne on a Tuesday night, the river is just jammed full of boats. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned perf just now,
Yes.
and Leo has asked, as a new dinghy owner, do I need a perf certificate or other paperwork in order to race?
That's a great question. It depends on the dinghy that you own. If it's one of the dinghies that is represented in a one design fleet, and for us, that's lasers, albacores, 505s, 404s, and
Fireballs?
fireballs. Correct. Thank you. I knew I was missing one. If you're in one of those boats, you don't need a perf certificate because you can join one of those fleets and away you go. If you have another boat, then you would get a perf rating for that.
So PERF stands for Performance Handicap Racing Fleet, correct?
That's right, and it's essentially a handicap, right? I mean, the technical details are eye-wateringly boring unless you're the kind of person that loves this stuff. And I know lots that do. It's great, and I'm thankful because someone's got to make sure that the perf rating for my boat is accurate. But it's basically a time-on-time estimate. You know, a Viper is faster than a J22, so if a J22 takes an hour to go a nautical mile, then a Viper should take 40 minutes to go a nautical mile. Those numbers don't make sense, but you get the idea. So basically, you get a 20-minute. The J22, you get a 20-minute handicap. It actually boils down to seconds instead of minutes, but that's the idea.
Yeah. And you get used, from my experience, you get used to what other boats are about your speed, and you start looking up their handicap, and you get, so it's not boat for boat that you're racing, but you have a rough idea how much further ahead of another boat you'd want to be to beat that boat. So it's quite fun. Yeah. Leo also asks, I understand that it was really hard to crew in 2020 because of the COVID restrictions. Can you comment on that? And so clarify what the COVID rules were, or maybe, I think what he really means is, how did we go about doing that? How did we make that work? Because I had crew, I raced and I had crew.
Yeah. So it was a challenge. It took the Nepean Sailing Club a long time to figure out how sailing fit into the provincial regulations. You can imagine that somebody drawing up legislation for the province is thinking about a bunch of things. They might not be thinking about sailing. So it was a challenge to map our activity on top of the regulations. And then of course there was social distancing. So up to the first half of the year, racing was significantly impacted. The last half of the year, we ran pretty much a regular racing program. with social distancing rules enforced on the boat. So you know, people on the boat, if they weren't in your social bubble, you needed to stay 2 meters apart. Um, you know, and different boats have different issues with that. So for example, a two-person dinghy like an albacore, being socially distant in an albacore is not on. So what that means is that the person you're racing with has to be in your social bubble, because you can't, my boat's the same way. You can't be 6 feet apart from these people. You're literally cheek to cheek on the rail with these people for 2 hours. So it was a challenge. It definitely affected the way we ran the races. It also affected the number of people that participated. But you know, we made it work, and we'll, you know, Sail Ontario has a season under their belt, so they're much better at turning around advice based on provincial legislation. As a club, we also have that same experience, so we're pretty good. So this year, I expect that we will be able to answer those questions for members much more quickly than we did last year.
Actually, this would be a good year to learn to race because there weren't official starting guns, right?
That's right.
It
Yeah.
was
So
time trials.
for the first half of the season, we ran time trials, and that was to make us compliant with the the rules around leagues and the number of people that could be together at one time. So the time trials actually brought out new racers that were nervous about the start. The start is the part of the race that is either the most thrilling or the most scary, depending on your point of view. For me, it's both. It's terrifying and thrilling all at the same time. The time trials, it's basically, you know, what was the time you started, what was the time you finished, you subtract the two, and that's your time. So you could start all by yourself, and that brought out a whole new group of people. So we may, COVID willing, offer a separate time trial, and this would be a new thing for us, a separate time trial race on Monday nights to run coincident with women's night racing, just because it was popular and people were asking for it.
Awesome, fun.
Yeah, but
Great.
it's fluid. Whatever I just said, it's going to be out of date in 20 minutes. It's keeping on top of this is a challenge.
Watch the website.
Watch the website.
Um, Earl's asking about the group IO
Mm-hmm.
NSC channel 16, but he didn't quite understand how to access the discussion group. Is there a link to it on the website?
There is not. And the reason there isn't a link to it on the website is it's not really a club initiated process. But there's no reason that we can't do a better job of promoting it. You know, we don't, on our website, we don't have a link up to, you know, other community forums and groups based around sailing, largely because the club doesn't want to be seen to be favoring one group of sailors over another group. But this is a really great communications channel. We got to find a way to be able to not so much promote it as to just, you know, advertise it, let people know that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Great.
I will take that as an action item to address.
Great. I don't know if somebody on the panel could quickly look it up and paste it into the chat. That might be something that's possible. All right. So we have a question from Peter about purchasing a boat. He asks, he says he's finding it hard to find the right boat, like the quality, size, value. Does the club have a program for helping with this kind of challenge?
Nothing specific. This is a perennial topic at, not perennial because nobody's doing it this year, but this is a common topic at the Winter Speaker Series. I know that if you reach out to Advantage Boating, they have a series of courses that you can take that help you on this. So there'll be a course on outboard motors. There's a course on inboard motors. There's a course on you know, rigging a boat, like, you got a big keel boat that's 40 feet long. How do you get the mast up? How do you rig it? So they have those kinds of things. And I say about every 2 or 3 years, someone runs one of these programs. If there's interest, we can put one of these together, because this is, it's a challenge. And buying your first boat is a scary experience. I can say that from experience. I put the money down, had no idea if this was a good purchase or not. 5 seconds on the water and I knew it was. But but that's me. I do realize that it can be daunting. It's not like driving a car where you can get good advice on the internet. Yeah. So reach out to me, fleet@nsc.ca, and let's get some resources in your hands.
Mm-hmm. And also, I've found that hanging around the club as you chat with people, distance with your mask on and so on, people are like you said earlier, people are a wealth of information.
Absolutely.
And as you start to chat about this with people and hear what they have to say, you'll have a variety of opinions, but you'll get enough general information and especially an idea of what to consider and what to look for. I found that very helpful. And
Yeah.
I was out of sailing for 40 years. I grew up in Halifax and I'm back in it the last few years. And already people are asking me when they're buying boats for advice. And I say what I know, and then I point them to somebody else. So,
yeah. Once again, I'll reiterate what I said in the presentation, which is, find out what other people are sailing in Ottawa and talk to owners of those boats. There's a reason. I mean, there's a lot of sharks in this part of the world. There's a reason there's a lot of sharks. It's an easy boat to sail. It's a fun boat to sail. There's a big community. It's inexpensive, and you can always find parts for a shark. Those don't sound like very sexy things, but boy, they are actually pretty attractive when you got a broken boat. There's other classes of boats that are popular. I mentioned a few of them. There's a reason why people gravitate to certain boats. There's a reason why there's no 80-foot yachts on the Ottawa River. We just don't have enough water for it.
or slips.
Or slips. Yeah, there's that. But there is a reason why other people have a particular type of boat.
So Melanie, who regularly helps us in the background, as I do, has just mentioned in the chat that her husband, David Meek, is a boat consultant who specializes in helping people find the perfect boat. And he's a member at NSC.
My goodness, how come I've never met David? Wow.
So he presented it with, he and Melanie presented here a few weeks back on Liverboard Cruising. Right. So
wow.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. That's great.
All right. So far we have no other questions. We'll chat for a second. If anybody has a last minute question, they can type it in, but yeah. So in terms of launch, you said that it's tentative. We just have to wait and see. It's typically May 8th for Saturday in May, but just stay tuned to the website to see what happens there. And Harbour Master, Rear Commodore Dave Naismith, who's speaking next week, is the point person on that. So correct. So he'll be letting everybody know what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I will say is launch is not tentative. That date is set. Moving it would be a significant event because an awful lot of planning goes into setting that date. And moving it would it's been moved before for the floods, but it always has knock-on effects. So, right now, I'm not sure what access to the yard is going to look like, but I have not heard anything about the date for launch moving. We will see.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Park is just asking about some of the fun races. Could you say something about like the Harbour Masters race?
Yes. The Harbour Masters race. This is a hoot. I know that somebody's going to expect me to participate in this brouhaha. And I need to find, I think my knee is going to flare up or some nonsense like that. So the Harbour Masters race is a dinghy race for adults. You literally get into these small open bicks. An open bick is a fabulous little dinghy.
How many feet long?
I
Eight feet?
I think it's 8 feet long. It's designed for a 10-year-old and not a large 10-year-old. And let's just say some of us are too big for those boats. And the idea is you have to launch from the dinghy docks, come all the way down to below the deck in the NSC Harbour, spin around and go back, all while keeping your dignity intact. This is a challenge.
It's a lark. It's
It,
great to watch.
it's a hoot, yeah. And there's a number of these as well. There's the turkey trot is a fun one. There is the single hand keelboat race. This is where people will race a keelboat with just the skipper on board. And I that's a fun race to participate in. If you participate in it, I implore you to treat it as a fun race and don't be super competitive, because if you're alone in the boat, it's challenging. So you want things to be nice and slow and easy. So yeah, there's lots of those kinds of events, that's for sure.
And one event that's among the most popular is the Baskins Beach Barbecue.
Yes, that's. I've not participated in that, and that's more's the pity. May have to COVID willing, break the seal on that one, because I talk to people about it and they say it's just great. It's a long. Baskins Beach is a heck of a piece up, so it's a nice long sail up the Ottawa River beneath the Gatineau Hills. You anchor off Baskins Beach and have a great barbecue, and then either stay the night or come back home.
So they're dinghies, they're taxi dinghies, right? That take
Yeah,
people to shore.
yeah, there are taxi dinghies that will come and take people to shore.
Like
Um,
everything at NSC, it's super well organized.
oh yeah, yeah, it's a very well organized thing. Another fun one is something called Midnight Madness.
Mm.
Um, I've not participated in Midnight Madness either, and there's a reason for that. And to find the reason, you will have to find me at the club, and I will tell you over a beer. But I don't sail, I don't race after dark anymore. We'll just leave it at that. um, this is a very, very well attended, well loved event. And it's basically a sailboat race in the dark, and people are encouraged to put all kinds of crazy lights up on their rigging, up on their mast. Some of the pictures that come back from Midnight Madness are truly spectacular. And I have been on the water once during Midnight Madness, not participating, and it's fun to watch.
Mm. Yeah, I've seen the boats. I haven't participated either. I've seen the boats. I'm at the very last slip at the mouth of the harbor, so we see all the boats lit up going by. It's spectacular. It's really
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
It's really
it's fun.
fun. The race doesn't start at midnight, though, just to be clear.
Correct. Yeah,
It's about 10 p.m. is the start, I think, right?
yeah. About that time of year,
But,
it's not in the it's not the time of year where the days are the longest, but by that time of year, it's good and dark at 10 p.m.
oh, thank you very much, Ron or Doris, whoever just posted a link in
Yeah.
the Q&A box. A recent seminar on buying your first boat. Excellent. I knew that that had been done on the sail meetup, and missed it. I couldn't remember where it was. Great. That should be helpful. All right. Well, Mike, thank you again ever so much for
My
your
pleasure.
talk. This has been great fun. I want to say thank you. And of course, anybody who does these talks for us gets some NSC swag, and I don't have one here. I don't even have my own yet. So we will get you the proverbial NSC cap as a token of our appreciation. So thank you. Any closing comments that you'd want to make of any kind? Or
Uh,
are we
at the risk of boring everyone, I want to thank you and Park and Tony and Melanie for putting this together. You guys make it look easy, make it look smooth, and I can tell you, I've been exposed to just a little bit of the background work that these folks do to make this happen. So a big thank you to you. Like I say, there's no they at the Nepean Sailing Club. There's just a bunch of sailors that come together to make things like the Winter Speaker Series happen. So thanks a lot.
Our pleasure. Well, don't forget folks, next week, same time, same bat channel, Dave Naismith, our Rear Commodore and Harbor Master, is going to talk about everything you need to know about getting your boat into the water and back out again in the fall, and what opportunities there are to learn together, hands-on, while helping. So have a great rest of the evening and see you next week. Good night.